Good morning. This one is especially for my grandchildren. Um, I woke up early last night. I went to bed early, so I got a really good night's sleep. But I woke up in the middle of the night, about 4 in the morning, and I couldn't go back to sleep, which happens sometimes as you get older. I started thinking about things in my life, and I started really focusing on relationships. I like to meditate and contemplate life, and sometimes I focus on a specific subject, and this time it was relationships. And I thought about all my relationships in my life from the time I was a child until now, and all the different ways things have gone, and in all different types of relationships, not any one specifically, and all the things that I've learned about relationships. And this seems really silly in a lot of ways for me to talk about, because if you think about it, it's kind of common sense. But I've noticed in my own life, not just with myself, but observing how other people view relationships, that emotions cloud your judgment and the way you see things. And it screws things up if it gets out of balance, which when I looked back on all my relationships, they tend to get out of balance, all of them. I can't think of a single one on any level, whether shallow relationships or deeply intimate marriage relationships. I've been married 3 times, and all of them got out of balance and unhealthy at times. And I pondered that for a while, and you have to think, if you really want to give it some thought, why it happens and how to avoid it from happening. You have to think about it for a while and figure out how much of that was my doing, how much of that did I contribute to, and why did that happen? Was it all me, or was it all them? Usually I can't think of a single time that it was all one person or the other. Now, I can think of times where certain incidents were all one person or the other, but I can't think of the relationship as a whole. Both parties always had some flaws and did some things wrong. And to resist the temptation of going into detail too much and rambling all over the place in generalities, just kind of like to focus in on one main point, and that is that really it all boils down to your own attitude and love coming from within. Excuse me. The Bible's pretty clear about that. Love comes from the heart. And the heart's not just the physical heart. It is the physical heart, but it's also the physical heart and mind connection, the soul, the whole being. And your attitude, your thought processes towards that are critically important. Love is an overflowing thing that comes from within, and sometimes it's not reciprocated. Oftentimes people have different views on what love should be and how it should be expressed, and how ideally they've got this fantasy in their mind of how it should be, and I don't think that's ever really happened to me personally. I've seen similar relationships with other people, but I know from, and I'm speaking as a hospice worker intimately involved in families far beyond what their own family members were. You get really deep insights into people when you work with people on that level, that intimately. And it's in a lot of ways more intimate than they are with their own children or their own family members. So, not always, but a lot of times. You get insights, and I've just noticed that people's attitudes really have a huge impact on how things go. And it's contagious. So if you're selfish, it's gonna become a problem. It's gonna be negative, and it's gonna be contagious. Whereas if you're really focused on developing and cultivating, and like a gardener or a farmer, your heart to develop love for other people, regardless of how they treat you or what they expect from you, or what you hope to get out of the relationship from them. If you can do that, you'll have love in your heart no matter what happens. Now, that's not to say it's always going to be rosy fairy tale stuff, because it's not. But honestly, that's what makes it heroic. That's what makes it so romantic. That's what makes it so intensely admirable and treasured, because it's, number one, it's so rare, and number two, it's something that you really worked for, and nobody can take that away from you. And that's really what the life of Christ Jesus was about. He set the standard for us on what we're supposed to, what he created us to be, how he created us to be, to love God with all our heart and each other as ourselves. And it was a self-sacrificing love above and beyond what any other human being has accomplished. And that's why we love him back, if we have a proper relationship with him. That's also why people get terrified and scared and run away from him, because they don't have that for him, and they don't try to develop that love. And that makes them feel so guilty and repulsive that they're tortured by the love that God has for them. And that's basically hell. That's what hell is. And that's what an unreciprocated relationship is like. It's full of problems. And the opposite is true when you have relationships where the people love each other so much, and they both equally make the efforts to cultivate that love and show it towards each other and forgive each other. Those are the kinds of relationships where the two flames become one. I had an old lady one time explain to me that how rare those types of relationships are, and she used the metaphor of two candles burning next to each other that over time melt into each other and become one flame. And that's the very ideal, rare, true love. So that's basically all I had to say. If you don't have true love, the only way to have it is to develop it in your own heart. And even if it's not reciprocated, even if it's extremely painful, that wound will heal, and you'll be left with that true love. Even if it's not returned, you'll still feel it, and it's still a blessing. So, and I have experienced that multiple times. Doesn't mean doesn't still have pain, a twinge of pain with it, but it's something that I would not want to give up. I'd still want to love that person, still have those feelings, even if it's not returned properly. So, food for thought. Pray for me, a sinner. Forgive me if that seems ridiculously obvious, but I've noticed in my own life, if I don't focus on that and I start to get selfish, or I start to think things should be a certain way and they're not, and it's bothering me, it helps me to remember that, and it makes me feel better, and that's the whole point. So pray for me, a sinner. God bless. Over out. Have a blessed day.